Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of little stories, including something about Dele Alli and a little bit more about the Europa Conference League. Not officially kicked out just yet. So, welcome back to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video and post your comments below to keep the conversation flowing after we've finished. So, jumping into it. Dele Alli. It looks like his time is finally up. Every manager that's come in since Pochettino left has given him a chance. We saw in the documentary that he was labelled a lazy trainer by Jose Mourinho. Was given chances, was taken off at times for sloppy performances. Nuno didn't seem to rate him too much either. And now under Conte, a man that gave him a chance. Look, even before Nuno came in, we saw that he went away, worked really hard to get his fitness levels up. And that showed on the pitch. He was covering a lot more ground than other people, but the quality that he once possessed just hasn't come back whatsoever. He's not been influencing games the way we'd like him to. It looks like there's just some sort of confidence that has gone within him. He's very within himself, and he just seems to be doing more of the dog work than he does the quality. And that's not the sort of player that he is. We've got other people to do that, like Skippy and Højbjerg. So, it looks like Conte's now had enough of him as well and decided his time is up. But it looks like a loan option is more viable than selling him. I mean, at the end of the day, his stock has massively dropped over the last few years. So Daniel Levy will have to drop his valuation a certain amount, but I think the valuation that he's got will be too high. Clubs aren't going to want to pay it, especially with a player that has now failed under 3 managers on the bounce. So a loan option with an obligation to buy is probably more that will happen. But he's contracted until 2024. And the issue you've got, he's kind of in the same situation now as Jesse Lingard was just before he went out on loan to West Ham and had a smashing season. So we could see him go out on loan, absolutely crush it, come back, and then hopefully reintegrate himself back into the squad properly. However, Lingard hasn't exactly managed to successfully do that since back at Man United. So expect him to try and be on the move somewhere in January. This is the sort of situation that Dele Alli is now in. He needs a loan move to get consistent football. He's not getting enough football. The cup games that he does play, he's not with a complete first team lineup. So it doesn't really help him build his confidence when you're in a subpar team as well. But a loan could be good for him. He could end up being reinvigorated in a new environment, smash it, come back at Spurs, get a pre-season under his belt, be that invigorated player and stay. Or he could go out on loan, smash it, come back, have a poorish pre-season, but we're able to sell him for a slightly increased price because of that loan season. Could work for everybody. Okay, let's talk about the COVID situation at Spurs. So reports this morning have come out saying that another first team player has contracted COVID. They have tested positive. We've also got an outbreak in the under-23s, which meant all the under-23s were sent home. So based on everything that had happened in the build-up to this, the first team section of the training ground had been closed. The indoor areas had been closed as well. But 2 of the players that had tested positive for COVID were back with Spurs today. They returned to training, and essentially everybody had to turn up, train outdoors, and then just go home. They couldn't go into any indoor areas. And what Antonio Conte did, he forced them all yesterday into a double training session. Typical Conte. There's no way he was going to let them get away with the possibility of slacking at home. So the second they're back, double session, make sure the fitness levels are still high. It's almost like a punishment, even though it's COVID and it wasn't necessarily their faults they contracted it. But this guy doesn't let anything slide. So what does this mean for the Leicester game? Well, probability is the Leicester game is actually going to be played. They've had some COVID cases themselves, and they still managed to get an impressive victory the other day. And then you also seen Manchester United have now got COVID cases. Aston Villa have joined the COVID train. So expect more teams to contract COVID through their squads. But however, I think the numbers in these other clubs at the moment have been slightly more manageable. Ours kind of went a little bit further because I think maybe it was a bit late finding out and it was able to spread quicker. But Brendan Rodgers himself has come out and reaffirmed the fact that he feels there is a commitment for the game to go ahead. But that'll probably come down to the fact that players that have got COVID in their squad probably aren't the key players, so his squad is still strong enough regardless to compete at the top level. Whereas by the looks of our squad, the reason why we wanted those games postponed was because we're going to be without some very key players. And let's face it, the backups have not done the job so far this season. So it makes complete sense that we tried to get ours postponed. Now, talking about the Europa Conference League, the situation there at the moment as it stands, the draw has been done. Tottenham and Vitesse were both drawn. And the team that we've been drawn against is Rapid Vienna for the knockout round. So both of us have been drawn in that until the outcome happens. Now, if you're Vitesse Arnhem, you are going to be absolutely fuming if Tottenham get awarded the points from our postponed game against Rennes and go through. It's been a bit of a weird one. In my last video when I was talking about the fact that there's the possibility that we will have to forfeit the match, an automatic 3-0 loss and we'll be out. There are a lot of Spurs fans that seem ridiculously happy about this. And I think there's this misconception that being out of the competition is a good thing. So look, here's my view on it. The competition as itself for Tottenham, I was not a massive fan of. And that's not because I think we're too good for this cup. Because the way we're playing at the moment, this is exactly the competition we should be in. We haven't deserved to be Europa League, Champions League. We deserve to be exactly where we are. You've only got to look at our performances under Nuno, the end of Jose's reign, and you can't really complain. So in terms of that, we are where we are. The competition, I don't like it, but if you look at it from the aspect of fans from countries that never get European football, so they can win their league and the best they could hope for is maybe Europa League football. And then the next, you finish second in your league and you get nothing. Whereas in the Premier League, the top 4 get Champions League. 2 teams get Europa League, possibly a third, depending on scenarios. And these other nations, because of where they rank in the coefficiency, they maybe get 1 team in a European competition. So for that aspect, there's plenty more teams that are able to play in this competition, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It's not where we want to be, but there's plenty of Premier League teams in there that would chew your arm off to have European experience. And not to mention, for some of the fans, it's great because they get to travel to places that they wouldn't normally travel for football matches, experience new cultures and things like that. So for the travelling fans, this is an absolute, it's a great thing. And realistically, if we were playing our first team under Conte, should we say, because Nuno, it wasn't working out. But under Conte, you would expect our first team to go to a lot of these places and win. So you not only get to experience another country and a city you wouldn't normally go to, but you get to experience the victory on top of that. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to have that every time we've been away so far this season, and COVID restrictions have made it more difficult with travel. But you can understand why the competition as a whole is a good thing. It's just not where we want to be because, unfortunately, a section of our fans feel like because we've played Champions League football a few times that we have the right to be there every season. Well, if your argument is going to be that, then Arsenal could argue they should be there every season. Chelsea missed out a couple of times. Leeds would have argued they never should have been out of the Premier League. There's arguments for everything. So I think you need to just understand where we are. But there was also a lot of fans that do understand that this is exactly where we are, and to come out of the competition is, especially to be kicked out in this way, not a good thing. So the situation is at the moment, both teams have been drawn against Rapid Vienna. Probably a good draw from some of the teams that we could have come up against. There was quite a few in there that would have been a little bit of test. Obviously, we can't win the group through this, so we're in the position we're in where we're going to have to play one of the teams that drops down from the Europa League. But I think this was one of the kinder draws that were in there, so we're quite lucky in that sense. So what we're waiting for now is the UEFA Control, Ethics and Disciplinary Body to make their decision as to whether we were at fault for the game not going ahead, Rennes were at fault for the game not going ahead. Obviously, there's a bit of misinterpretation of our actions for the game being cancelled. We didn't want the game to go ahead because of the amount of COVID cases we had, and obviously it would have been a very weakened team we would have had to have filled. Ren was saying that we didn't communicate with them beforehand to get an agreement. There's also talk that we didn't actually communicate properly with UEFA to have the game postponed. But UEFA did come out and officially confirm themselves before the game that it was postponed. But this is not something that Ren agreed to. It's a game they wanted to very much play. They were ready to go ahead for. And then obviously we offered to rearrange the game on some select dates, and they turned around and said no. So this control, ethics and disciplinary body need to figure out whether we gave sufficient offer for them to take us up on it. But this is where the grey area comes in. So they're not going to be playing the way we play over Christmas over in France. So what they will already have is a lot of their players would have planned to go home for Christmas. A lot of them will already have their families with them, naturally, where they're playing, but some of them will have other extended family in other countries. So for example, just looking into some of the players in the Rennes squad, and this is first team players, they have players from Belgium, Croatia, Ghana, Turkey, Norway, Mali, Senegal, Morocco and Chad, just to name a few. So there's no guarantee that all of those players were going to stay in France for the winter break, and they are getting a winter break. So Rennes' argument could be, a lot of our players have already got commitments that have been made. Why should they have to suffer at a time when it's meant to be their Christmas break? We want to protect our players. That's the argument they will have, and it's up to the ethics board to figure out whether that's a valid enough excuse. Bearing in mind there are dates before and after Christmas when it could have been played. They don't need as big a Christmas break because the Premier League doesn't have a Christmas break. So that will be the argument on that side. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. At the moment, I'm slightly more leaning towards the fact that we will be the ones to take the 3-0 hit and we'll be out of the competition. But, as I say, we don't know what's gone on behind the closed doors, which is why the ethics board are going to have to do an investigation. So there probably won't be a decision anytime soon. But my opinion on it now is that we will probably be the team to get the shove. Moving on to a couple of other transfer stories, not outgoings, this is incomings. A player that apparently Conte is looking at is Christensen from Chelsea, as we are looking for another centre-back. He's a player that apparently we're looking at. So his situation at Chelsea is there's debates and arguments around contract talks, and that's what it usually is with players. Chelsea are having a bit of a tough time in contract talks with a few players at the moment, is the rumours that I'm hearing. Christensen's a fairly decent centre-back. He's able to play the ball. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's got good commitment. He's kind of gone under the radar under some of the managers and then really built his way into the squad. Like, let me know in the comments below what you think of him, because at times I've been really impressed with him and other times not so much. The other one we were obviously linked with was Rudiger. Now, the problem we've got is because these are Chelsea players, Chelsea don't want to do business with us. They didn't want to do business with us over the Giroud deal, which I think would have been a fantastic deal for us at the time, had they allowed that to happen. I think he's a very underrated striker. And, at the end of the day, we've had players that have played for Arsenal and Chelsea before in William Gallas from Arsenal, Emmanuel Adebayor. So it's not like it's unknown territory for us. And at the end of the day, they have no real loyalties to these clubs other than the ones they say they have, just to keep fans on their sides, that they weren't born here. It's different countries. They're just here to play the sport they love at the highest level they can and earn the money they want. So it doesn't really bother me too much, their history, unless they've publicly come out and showed any kind of hate towards Tottenham. But I just can't see Chelsea allowing a deal for Christensen to happen, or Rudiger for that matter. Everything just comes down to, if contracts are completely up, then that's fine and we can talk to them like when they're in the last 6 months of their contract. That's the only way these sorts of deals are ever going to happen. So we'll see what happens on that one. But let me know in the comments what you think. Also, let me know in the comments below what you think about Dele Alli. Do you think a loan will be good for him? Do you think it will reinvigorate him and we will get him back to his best? When coming from MK Dons in 2015 and became one of the most exciting prospects in the country. Are we ever going to see that player again, or is he beyond it? Has the lifestyle and the way footballers can be with all their money, has that gone to his head? Is he living a certain lifestyle and can't put the energy and the effort in? I don't know. Let me know below in the comments about that one. It'll be interesting to see what people's opinions are on why they think someone like Dele Alli has fallen so far in such a short space of time. But that's it for today. There were a couple of other transfer stories in there, but in my opinion, they're not really, what should we say? They're not really firm enough at the moment for me to talk to you about them. You know, things like Milenkovic, apparently we're after him again. And then the Vlahovic, you know, that one just hasn't gone away, and I don't think it ever will until the window is shut. So we'll see. There's quotes of even as little as 40 million for him now. So we'll see what that one brings in January. So I don't want to talk about him too much until there's something more concrete. And certainly with the Milenkovic deal. But that is it for today. Dele Alli possibly outgoing. More COVID drama within Spurs. And the possibility that we could still be in the Europa Conference League. So thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And until tomorrow, come on you Spurs.